What's up, everybody, and welcome back to this episode of the podcast. On this episode, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the obstacles that are impacting success and the ones that you probably aren't aware of or that you don't see. I kind of want to look at the underlying things because we know what a lot of the signs are limiting your success in terms of pain and injury and discomfort and inability to be able to do the activities that you love. But there's a lot of things in the background that probably not so aware of, and if we can become a little bit more aware of them, a lot easier to fix them. Okay, so I guess the reason this started is because I got a call earlier this week with a lady who's been dealing with back flare-ups and pain for the last few months, and it's not the first time, but let's say this time around it has lasted a few months, but it's been happening to her for multiple years. And she's now living in fear of this next flare-up. And when we were discussing it, this is a common issue that people talk about, is it's like there's a monster in the closet where you're waiting for it to happen and it's kind of always in the background, so you're limiting what you do. Now, the thing is that she wants to lose weight but doesn't know how to safely do it because every time that she's tried in the past, her back just goes into spasm. And it feels like she's useless, not able to be a mother, not able to be a partner to her husband, and really doesn't feel like she's herself at all anymore. And these are her words, these aren't my words. But the thing is that this constant dread and anxiety about how her body is failing her is top of mind all of the time. She's dealing with degenerative discs, bulging discs, back spasms, and it's kicking up any time that she tries to get back and do anything too much. So every time she looks to build herself up, she's getting knocked back down again. And based on all the above, I was absolutely certain that we could help her because she had mentioned a couple of things there in terms of like the type of issue that she had. I was on the call with her obviously, so I was able to dive into this in a bit more detail, but she had mentioned all her issues, and then she had mentioned the fear and stuff. And the big thing with the work that we do is not just about helping you to get out of pain, it's about getting you back to being the person that you want to be, or helping you to achieve that person even if you weren't there in the past. And a lot of that is taking care of pain is only one small part of it. There's a lot of fears and beliefs that need to be worked on as well. Because if you continue to believe that you have a bad back, well then you're going to continue to be set back from it. Okay? And that's why I was so confident. She wants freedom, she wants independence, but is lost at what to do and confused as well in a lot of ways because she's been given so many different diagnoses, different short-term plans, that it's at the moment you can kind of see how she gets stuck. And it's unfortunate because you can see how it happens to so many people who are constantly get stuck in this short-term cycle of pain management. Okay, getting acupuncture, massage, chiropractic adjustments, taking painkillers, hoping that if it masks it for long enough, she'll be able to get back to a normal life. The problem is, what does it look like in 6 months' time if she stays on this path of painkillers and short-term relief? And this is something that we don't consider when we're in this cycle, and that's why I want to talk about this cycle a bit more. See, the problem is, in 6 months' time, do you think that the weight is going to increase or decrease? Do you think she's going to have more independence or less independence? Does the monster in the closet go away completely, or does it become a bigger and bigger and bigger issue? Fortunately, it's a no to all of these things. All these things in 6 months' time become bigger problems when they're not dealt with and when they're just left around to wait. And worse so, the money you're spending on it is continuing to be wasted because you're spending it on things that are going to help you for 24 to 48 hours, but you don't realize that because you're kind of in this phase of, okay, I need to get through this today. And not only, like, the thing is that when you're in that 24 to 48 hour cycle, in a lot of ways, and I'm going to be completely candid and honest with it, like in a lot of ways, you're feeling like your comfort is in what you know. Okay, I think that's an easier place to start. So you're kind of massaging your ego, telling yourself that we're doing everything we can, we're pushing out problems for another day. And not only does this chip away at your body over time, what does it actually do to your mind? When you know that your independence is slipping away from you and life is becoming more difficult to live in, how does that impact you in a couple of years' time? Not 6 months' time, in a couple of years' time. And what I often see is people shift into this state of depression, this state of that they just don't know what to do. They begin to look at life and the world as everything is against them. And it's funny because people, when they jump on and we're working together, they'll say, like, I was becoming that person, that negative person that I always hated meeting. And then when you look at the other side from a physical standpoint, how does your mobility change? Like, how do you start using crutches? Do you move to like not walking at all or not moving at all because it just becomes too much? Because the body has deconditioned so much. In time, you see how these unfold, right? And I've seen that so many times with people who have down the road and they're getting it back. And the good thing is that the body is strong, the body is adaptable. So once you start working on it, you can improve so much. But you need to be aware of what's actually stopping you from working on it. And this is the problem. This is what I want to talk about. That's why today I'm going to talk about some of the unseen obstacles to your success, as well as how you can actually overcome them. So let's dive right into it. The first thing here, okay, is fear versus pain. It's a trade-off. Okay, you get stuck in this loop. You're dealing with a significant amount of physical pain, obviously, but also dealing with this emotional overwhelm. And this is what people aren't aware of, okay? And what happens when you have this significant amount of pain and emotional overwhelm is you get stuck in a state of freeze. It's you stop, okay? Because you don't want to make anything worse. The constant cycles of flare-ups, pain, spasms, stop and start in life, they leave you in a place where it's more comfortable to do what is familiar than to make a change. And it's funny how we stay in that state of being familiar all the time, and even if it's a worse situation on what we could be in future, it's kind of like the frog that doesn't jump out of the water as it heats up. Because of the pain sticking around so long, you actually are afraid to make the wrong decision, and you don't want to be let down again, or you don't want to waste money. So the problem here is, and I want you to think about this, what if your fear of getting it wrong is actually the exact thing that's keeping you stuck? See, the thing you have to realize is, whether you want to admit it or not, is that you've probably already spent hundreds of thousands on this in lots of cases, and none of it has really helped you long term, or even helped you to understand what's going on. Like, it'd be grand if you was improving, but you were at least starting to understand what was going on, so you can reduce the likelihood in future. If you've no idea what's going on and you're still just throwing money at it and you're hoping that there's going to be some mechanical fix to it, then you're going to be in trouble. Okay, what you need isn't another quick fix. Okay, what you need is, you need clarity of exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and how to deal with it. Okay, if you have had the same back issue for 10 years, you are not going to get rid of it in 2 physio sessions or 3 physio sessions, 3 exercises, and a couple of painkillers. It's not going to happen. You're going to need a bit more work, and you're going to need to be consistent with it. Now, consistency, it's a lot easier to be consistent if you kind of work it into your lifestyle, which is something that we always do. Is like, we're not just going to be doing random exercises here and hopefully you get better. We're going to build the exercises into a lifestyle, into an activity that you enjoy, so that it becomes easier to keep it going, and to kind of, your rehab then becomes prehab. It's not like a rehab issue. It's that you just do it because the body gets more conditioned, it gets stronger in general, and you enjoy doing it. And that's what it is. So there's too much pain, confusion, and emotional overload at the moment, which actually impacts your ability to make the decision. Okay? And clarity is the goal. Okay? You want clarity on what's going on, what's happening, how to deal with it, how to work on it. Like that is what you're looking for. Okay? Now, the next obstacle that we need to overcome here, when we want to make a significant change in our life, is the idea of a cost perception versus a value perception. Okay, and one of the main points I made on the call was that, like, you need to stop taking painkillers, get massages and short physio trips, because you know it's only helping you short term. You've told me that. Like, you've said to me, this is only helping me for 24 to 48 hours. You're spending 200-300 quid a week on it, but it's not giving you any benefit, but you're repeating the same thing over and over again. Because what's happening is you're actually satisfying your need for control in a lot of ways. This quick relief feels like, and it's a funny paradox, we all get stuck in it. It's like when you're going, it's like buying in bulk at the shop versus going down to Super Value or Centra and just buying your things individually. You know it's going to cost you more upfront to buy in bulk, but it's going to last longer. It's cheaper in the long term. Or you can get stuck in that going down and just buying your carrots and your onions and your pasta and everything in smaller bunches, and really it feels cheaper in the short term, but it's actually costing you a significant amount more. Because what's happening here when you look at the body is you're actually satisfying your need for control. That's the issue. Okay, that's what's happening. You know what kind of helps you in the short term, so that leaves you in a feeling of comfort and control, so you continue to do that. And the thing is that even though the quick relief feels cheaper, unless you realize that 5 years time, how much you've spent and you haven't progressed. The thing about it is, if you're taking painkillers all the time, your body isn't progressing, but your liver is digressing. That's a point that I want to make. But now you have new stories as to why you're unfixable, because it's gone on so long. You've been doing the same thing over and over again, but you're saying to yourself, okay, well, it must be something that's not able to be fixed. Okay? And the other side is there's a huge amount of emotional safety in short-term results, but it's only going to last you so long. The emotional safety is going to be offset by the physical degradation in time to come. Okay? We need to be very aware of that as well. So when I'm talking here, I'm just going to make you aware of the obstacles. I want you just to be like, these things can limit your ability. And if you're aware of them, then you can actually make change. The thing is that if you look for these short-term relief, all you're doing is you're turning off the fire alarm. And turning off the fire alarm does not save the burning house, unfortunately. It just makes you less aware of it. Now, the next one after this, okay? Don't worry, we will get through these and you're going to have a better idea, but you kind of have to, it's a bit of a face to facts a small bit. The next is actually an identity conflict. This is a big one that stops us from changing, and this is so common, okay? It's powerful, and so many parents never actually realize that they get caught in this identity. It's like a limbo in ways, where you need to show up for your kids every day, but you never take time to work on yourself, to heal yourself. And it's like, in a lot of ways, it is a beautiful thing. It's like the sacrifice that's being made. And it's self-fulfilling in a lot of ways. You could describe it as like a learned helplessness. You know you want to change or lose weight or get stronger and be able to live a life with your kids, with being underlined there. But instead, you're just getting by. If they need something, you will drop as much as you need or as much as you have to, and you're going to figure your way out how to do it. And you'll spend whatever you need to do that. But because you, in turn, spend all your years focused on putting everyone else's first, you actually start to feel guilty about looking at yourself. And you feel guilt for trying to focus on yourself. And this is something that, I have this conversation with mothers and fathers so much, or people who are taking care of sick parents, or taking care of a sick relative, that they feel guilty taking that time out to work on themselves. But when we really take a bird's eye view on it, the problem here is that it's actually impacting your ability to show up fully for them. And that's the problem. And there's a really simple way to think about this. Even if you feel like you're sacrificing for them, it's not going to last, unfortunately. Because you can't take care of anyone else unless you take care of yourself first. And if you continue down this path, you're going to lose yourself. You're going to lose your identity of who you are. And you feel empty and you feel lost, and you dive deeper into this issue because we know the correlation between emotion, and we know the correlation between pain. And we know that, let's say, behaviors associated with that, and it's just not a good thing if you continue down that path. So at a certain stage, you have to I suppose the easiest way is, if you wait to feel ready, you're never going to start. And you're going to get stronger only by deciding that you want to get stronger. and actually working on that. You will not get stronger and you'll not get over this by waiting. And the last couple of obstacles kind of tie in together here really, but that's an important one. I think that identity conflict that people need to be aware of. It's the fact that you are willing to do whatever you can for your kids or the people around you, but you just have this guilt that if you start working on yourself, that you're taken away from something else. But it's a reframe, and I need you to reframe that. When you work on yourself, you can be there for them so much more. And the simple analogy, think about this if you really want to get it. When you sleep for 8 hours a day, it makes the other 16 so much better. So by taking those 8 hours out, or 6 in a lot of cases, 7 if you can, you know that the next 16 hours are going to be way better. If you can do that, 17 hours, if you're sleeping 7 hours. Because it's that disconnect to reconnect makes it so much more powerful. So I want you to think about that. Now the last couple of obstacles that you need to confront here, and I already mentioned the idea of the information overload and the lack of clarity. So I want to just touch back on that again, but I'm going to do it as simply as possible. For those of you who are dealing with some form of a chronic issue or a chronic back pain, chronic injury, I'm going to explain it in about 3 lines exactly what's happening in every case at an underlying level, and then there's other things that are obviously layered on top of that. But this is why you get those flare-ups, it flares up and then it comes back down again. And I'll tell you exactly what it's not. The problem here is it's not a sign. It's not your hips are offline or your disc or muscle tightness. These are all signs that the body is reacting. But the problem actually lies in your nervous system becoming overprotective. And then it calms down. And that's what a flare-up is. A flare-up is when it gets really bad for a couple of months or a couple of weeks, and then it sits in the background like a monster in the closet, and then it gets really bad again. And the more that you let this happen, the more sensitive it becomes. Because you don't actually need to have an injury to have pain. And it's so important to understand that. It's like that idea of stepping on Lego at nighttime. It's a 10 out of 10 pain. Look at a piece of Lego on the ground, step on it. It's a 1 out of 10 pain. The object hasn't changed, but your perception of control and danger has changed. At nighttime, it's way more dangerous because it could be a piece of glass because you haven't seen it. In the daytime, you can see it, so it's just a discomfort. The body doesn't need to give you more pain. And that's what I mean is that when you're looking at a chronic issue that flares up, the level of threat and danger and your perception of what's going on around you based off of what's going on in your life at the time, and maybe you had done something, you overloaded it, or it's completely fatigued, that actually causes this big flare up and this big side of overprotection. And I remember when I was dealing with the bulging discs in my neck, and I talked about this multiple podcasts, is that, and I actually have a YouTube video on this where you can check it out as well, and I go into detail, and I'll leave the link in the bio. But on a Friday after training all week, I would just go into these locked up spasms. Like, it was so sore. I couldn't turn my head, couldn't tuck my chin, I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't do anything because I was just completely in this huge flare up. Then it was calmed down 2 days later. I could train all week and it would kick up again on a Friday. It was a fatigue based flare up. It was being overworked. Really simple, okay? But it wasn't there on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's a very, very clear sign that the body was getting into this overreactive state to protect me for what it felt was the right thing to do. So I had to take care of this, and I had to actually work on the healing of the disc after then. So that's just a really simple sign. And that's why you're going on in circles, unfortunately, with these massages and painkillers and given these new diagnoses. Because it's not a new diagnosis, you're dealing with flare-ups. That's the issue. And when we first understand what actually sets it off, then we can start to fix it. And that's why I talk about with clarity. This is the basis to how you work on one of these chronic issues. Just turning it down for a few hours every once in a while with painkillers and your massage and overstimulating is not going to help, and it's going to become a bigger problem. You need to change your relationship with it. You need to understand what's going on. You need to understand the patterns. You make light adjustments. And honestly, that's where the clarity comes in. If signs like your hips off or degenerative discs are being given to you as a problem, it's only going to add to the confusion. It's like blaming the crack in a wall on a house instead of actually looking at the foundation, saying that crack is the issue. No, it's not. The foundation has caused that crack. And that's a big thing that we focus on, is just giving you pure clarity of understanding what's going on. The pain isn't the problem, the confusion is the problem. But when you actually have clarity about what to do step by step, then everything gets so much easier. And the lack of clarity actually causes you to become hyper vigilant. This happens to everyone. You overanalyze. You double check on every step. Any little change becomes a big problem. And the reason being is what's always looking for like survival, and you're always looking for comfort, and you want certainty. Okay? You want to know that it's the disc that caused that. It's this hip that's offline again, so I need to get cracked back into place. Do you know, it's because I have flat feet. Like all of these other reasons, but that's not the cause. And you want that certainty because it gives you safety, and then you want reassurance that you're doing the right thing. That's what it is, okay? That's what you need to tune into. It's an obstacle that you aren't realizing, and that's why you're staying in the same cycle over and over again. That's what's happening to you. But it's not actually about making huge changes. It's about making these little consistent steps in the right direction, just little ones. And that's how you overcome these obstacles and actually set yourself up for success. And the thing is that you can actually regain that identity, or rebuild an identity, or create a complete new identity if you want to. You can be the parent you've always wanted, and you can do whatever activity you enjoy doing, whether that be play tennis or paddle, go running, go to the gym, do your HIIT classes, go for hikes, go on holidays without having to worry about pain. You can do all these things, but you need to make a change, because if nothing changes, nothing will change. Now that's really everything that I wanted to go through today, because there's so many of those kind of background obstacles that people don't realize. And on the calls that we do with people who are looking to come into our programs, these are the conversations that we have to have. So we just make these wide open and clear, like these are the things that are going on, or this is the issue that you're dealing with, these are what are going on, these are the things that are going on, and these are the obstacles and the mindsets that are going to stop you from having success. And it can be very, very plain when we're saying it, because the reason we do that is if you get there without our programs, great, I'm delighted. That's why I make these podcasts. Some people can take these podcasts and they can implement them, and then they get onto me and they say, thanks a million, that really helped. I'm delighted. I really am. For other people, they kind of want a bit more of that step by step. They say, right, I prefer if I just have the clarity, if I have the structure, it just makes it easier. Perfect. And in a lot of ways, like that's why we made the back pain back to exercise. That's why we have the Select program. Select is our one-to-one, which is, I think I've got one space in it at the moment. The whole idea of the program is it's kind of designed to work with you. Okay, it like not just push past you. You don't just go all in and make these huge changes to your life. It's just start walking the path. Okay, what we say is that we just get you on the path, just one step at a time, and then we guide you the rest of it. You make little changes here, you make little changes there. The whole goal is that we're not adding more noise and confusion. We're just giving you a plan, giving you a process, and giving you a path forward. And it's very, very simple step-by-step structure. It's not about back pain. It's about getting you back. It's about getting you back into exercise, getting you over this issue. So you don't have to fear it. You don't have to have these beliefs that things are going to break down. And that's why, if you go onto my page, you can see people on Instagram coming back, or like the website as well, testimonials, a year later and saying that this has changed my life. And I know that's obviously a big statement, but when you don't have fear and you don't have this monster living in your closet and you don't have this anxiety all the time, and you're able to exercise and you can start dropping the weight and you can start actually living your life with your kids again, or living the life with your partner, that's life changing. Like that is huge. Like that's a pretty significant change in your life. But it happens because all you have to do is get on the path and stay on the path. It's an exact plan to follow, where your brain doesn't have to start handling loads of different decisions. You just show up, tick the boxes, and just watch it work. And the first step really to healing is just having a clear map. You don't need perfect discipline. You need just to know where you're going first. So if you're interested in that, if you're someone who you just want to be out of pain, be able to do normal things with your kids, feel like yourself again, not be constantly afraid that any little movement is going to set you back, then I would really, really push you to check out the Back Pain Back to Exercise program, because we're having a lot of really good results in there, and I'd be delighted to have you on board if it's a right fit, and we can jump on a call and talk through it first. That's what we do, because I'm not going to take anyone in that's not a right fit for it, just first off, because I don't want to waste your time or money, and I don't want to waste my time. I want to make sure that the people who are in there are able to focus on what needs to be focused on. They're the right people, and we'll work together. And then for the people who don't fit into that category, or who want a longer term, more support, just check out our one-to-one select program. I'm happy to chat through that as well. But honestly, if you feel like you've been going around in circles for too long, and you don't want to be 6 months time, everything getting worse, I definitely just hit the link in the description. We can set up a call and we can chat through it. Otherwise, you can just shoot me a message on Instagram at @RobbieCassidy_, and I'm happy to talk through it with you there too. Lastly, I would love if you actually enjoyed this podcast, or if it helped you in any way, if you could shoot it over to a friend, as it's a great way of just getting that message out there. It's nice to have people on the same wavelength as you as well when you're trying to overcome an issue like this, where if there's two of you dealing with something similar, send it on. You'll have a better idea of what to be thinking about, how to even talk to each other, because that's a big thing as well. The language that you use makes a big difference. I would love if you could do that. It also helps me to get other guests on the podcast as well. But yeah, if it helped, I'd love if you could send it to a friend, and if you could rate it. I want to get it up to 5-star rating, 1,000 5-star ratings, I should say. But I'm quite a bit off that right now, if I'm honest. I'm a good few off it. But every little 5-star rating goes a long way. And I'd love if you could just scroll up to the top, and if you enjoyed it, drop it there. But overall, honestly, that's all I'm going to talk about today. I appreciate you listening in. I hope this helped. I would check out the other podcasts down below. If you are listening to this and you're over the age of 40, I would recommend the podcast Stop Diagnosing Age. It's really important, because it just gives you a better understanding of all the crap that people put out there and how to actually work on the body. If you're somebody who's a high achiever, high performer, likes to achieve things, be productive, get things done, and you're finding that the normal back pain advice isn't helping, then I would check out why most back pain advice doesn't work for high achievers. It's another podcast. Really, really good. And if you want to understand my story better and how I overcame bulging discs to get back to competition, they were in my neck. I had 2 of them. How I tore my ACL and I was able to get back into playing football a couple of months later without surgery, and understand my own philosophy to physio and training and healing. Just click the link in the description and go straight to YouTube and check out that video as well, because we put out videos all the time. But overall, you can check me out on Instagram. Send me an email at info@themobilitytutor.com. Instagram is RobbieCassidy_. LinkedIn is Robbie Cassidy. But that's all from me. Thank you so much for listening. We'll chat to you all at the exact same time next week. Have a good one.